All right. So the question that I am getting from the internet today, thank you, Sasha. How many questions are the right amount or too many in a user audience research survey? And it's not boring if you ask me because I'm very entertained by these things. You know, there's no like right answer, right? I'm not going to tell you 8 questions. 8 is the magic number. There is no magic number for the number of questions on a survey. But this is what I will tell you. You should know how you are going to use the answer to each question, okay? If you don't know how you're going to use the answer to that, do not ask the question. So a lot of times I have people like ask for profession, and I'm like, well, why do you care? Is the profession important? If you don't, there's no reason. Okay? If there's no reason for the question and you can't find a good reason for why you need to ask that question, don't ask it. Okay. The second piece of advice for good survey writing is try to limit the number of open-ended questions you have and focus on only multiple choice. Drop down radio button, checklist, ranking, matrix, whatever you want. It's a lot easier for respondents to fill out questions when there's answers they can choose from versus an open-ended question where they might not be sure what you're looking for. It requires more work and thought to enter and fill out an open-ended question. All right? So you definitely want to try to make as many of your questions multiple choice. That's another way to make your survey easier to take. The next thing is you definitely want to divide your survey up by pages and ask the most important questions first. So often I see surveys where people ask for like email address and maybe age when there's no real clear reason why I need to supply that up front. And we know that if you ask for an email address up front, like people aren't going to take your survey. So for instance, I have a survey out there and the very first question says, do you consider yourself a startup founder? If they say yes, they go to page 2 where there's questions for startup founders. And if they say no, they go to page 4, which says, do you happen to be on Lindsay's email list? Yes, no. If they say no, then they're out. Like I don't need their answers, right? So make sure that you ask only the important questions to filter and out the people that you would really like to hear from. Okay, and if you divide it up on pages and list the questions by priority of which questions you really want answers to over others, then if they only complete 50% of the survey, at least you got the answers to the most important questions first. So, okay, so Sasha, I think that kind of answers your question. 1, don't ask questions that you don't have a clear like reason for asking. Like if you don't know how that answer is going to be used for your product development or your marketing or your insights, then don't ask that question, right? So get rid of superfluous questions. Make as many questions multiple choice so that they're easier to fill out rather than open-ended questions, which are just a lot more tasking on our ever busy brains. And then 3, divide the questions up by pages, asking your most important questions up front. That way, if people don't get all the way through your survey, at least you got the important data up front, okay? So if you have any other specific questions about survey writing, I'm happy to talk to you about that. I can just tell you that most startup founders ask horrible questions. They ask the wrong questions. They ask too many questions, and that ends them up with insights and feedback that's just not helpful for them. It's just not worth it for them, and it leads them to be stuck and confused later. That's just what's going on. Apparently, I've been told I'm a really great question asker. I think someone actually said to me, you ask great questions. I know Belma also told me that I also derive amazing insights too. So You can always hit me up if you want to work on some market research, customer discovery, and validation together. That is my jam.